Mm-mm. Hello, good morning, good morning. We're going to make sure that we get live here this morning and get ready for our What's News broadcast here in just a second. Hope you guys are having a great week. Sorry I missed you yesterday. I was teaching a class at the exact same time that the podcast was supposed to be. So I just do the podcast when I can. Very excited about that. And let's go here to Mindset University today. All right, y'all, we're going to go ahead and get to it. Let me make sure that I've got good audio this morning. Hopefully you guys can hear me well. Y'all, we're going to go ahead and get to it. Let me make sure that I've got good audio this morning. Not going to be able to help with the echo today, but maybe I can turn it down a little bit, and that will help. All right, y'all, let's go ahead and dive into it this morning. Hey everyone, welcome back. I am the Electrical Code Coach, and this is the Alpha Phase Podcast, and our goal is to be the #1 in adding value to you. Let's go ahead and get to it. Sorry I missed you yesterday. I was teaching a class on electrical plan review at the same time that we would normally have the podcast, so I couldn't be two places at once. This podcast is here when I'm able to do it, and I want it to always be a joy. I really enjoy doing it, and I hope you enjoy listening. Now let's dive into what's news. So here's a plot twist that you don't see every Sunday. A burglar is going to church literally posing as an electrician so he can break in and rob them. Huntington Beach police say they arrested a subject believed to be behind multiple Southern California church burglaries. The caper reportedly began August 17, 2025, when a staffer at First Christian Church in Huntington Beach confronted a man claiming to be a worker responding to a power outage. He was dressed like an electrician with tools and gears to match, but here's the kicker. There was no outage. Suspicious, right? The employee escorted him out. He hopped into a vehicle and vanished. Detectives dug in. Matching surveillance footage, they zeroed in on Juan Carlos Montiel as their man. They say he used the same ruse in several other crimes, bargaining into churches while pretending to be an electrical contractor. One of his alleged stops, the First Chinese Baptist Church of Fountain Valley, where he supposedly locked the doors from the inside during worship, broke into a cabinet, took cash and an iPad, and then came back later claiming he was there for emergency electrical work. The pastor reported the first break-in happened while the worship was in session during a renovation period. Now he's in custody, booked for burglary, but multiple law enforcement agencies, including Huntington Beach, LAPD, LA County Sheriff's Department, are reportedly still investigating additional incidents tied to him. You might ask, why the Electrician Act? It's clever. It gives him a plausible cause, masks the timing, nobody expects a contractor at odd hours, and masks the timing, nobody expects a contractor at odd hours, and lets him carry tools without raising alarms. And churches, often trusted and open, make for vulnerable targets. If you spot someone with a tool belt wandering around a church in the pre-dawn light, maybe you should verify before letting them in. Here is a picture of him. You can see him walking in. Looks like he's got a fluke meter or some electrical meter tied around his neck. And you got to ask yourself the question, why on earth? My friend, first off, why are you robbing God's house? Why are you robbing any religious establishment, right? Are you going to go rob the Boys and Girls Club? I know that's not a religious establishment, but why are you going to rob somebody that's trying to better your community? Second off, why pick an electrician? Plumber, mechanical, there's a lot of other options. So he pretended to be an electrician, snuck into these churches, stole money while worship was going on, and just went on to the next church. Very interested what you think about this. You can leave it down in the comments below. So here is the moral of the story. Don't pretend to be an electrician just to go out and rob people. Now let's dive over to Tool Corner. Really excited about this one. This one I'm excited about, but I'm kind of torn. Let's talk about it first, and then we'll talk about why I'm torn and talk about what I'm going to do about it to protect you. This is on Racketeer.com. Shout out to Racketeer. They have the coolest tools ever. A tool pouch designed by electricians for electricians. This Electrician Edge Pro tool belt was designed with all the features electricians need to work efficiently and comfortably. The electrical tool and accessory pocket pouches keep everything you need within arm's reach so you can finish tasks without having to go up and down your ladder. This tool belt was built for electricians by electricians. So it's full of unique features that make your life easier. Having an electrical tape holder, tape measure clip, magnetic strip, a hammer loop, on one belt to help you be efficient as possible. The wide back design prevents the belt from digging into your back and hips by evenly distributing the weight across the larger area. The thick padding features air channels to help improve ventilation to save your back from overheating. Let's go ahead and take a look at the pictures. Nice. I've had very similar tool bags in the past. Nice reinforced bottom, which is always trouble for us. And you have the clip for your, I feel like there were some more pictures here. Maybe they're the other direction. There we are. There's the tool belt itself, big enough to hold your drill. Okay, all right. So the one thing that concerns me about this belt, although it does look very heavy duty, if you look at that belt, that's one of the nicest belts I believe I've ever seen on a tool belt. But what's got me curious is this price, $175. Now, I'll give you this. I have not bought a new tool bag since Lowe's started stocking the ones that you could clip on and off, right? The ones that got the tool bags that you can clip on and off. I've not bought one since then, so what has that been, 3 years? So 2 or 3 years. So I've not bought one in quite a while, so I've not looked at prices recently. I do know that I was able to get a bag similar to this in the past for I think around $70, but that belt would have been 10 years ago. So think about inflation and everything else. And it did not have this level of belt. I think this belt is primo. And just to save you the cost and the thought and the worry and the anxiety, I'm going to buy one. And then we're going to bring it on the show and we're going to test it, and I'm going to put my tools in it, and I'm going to let you know what I think. I've worn a lot of tool belts, used a lot of different tools, and I will be able to give you the straight and the narrow on whether or not this thing is worth $175. Like I said, I'm not calling it out. I think it's just a concern. It may be right on par. I think that belt, what would you pay for a good belt that you didn't have to fight, like the actual belt part? So we're going to go ahead and purchase it, and we're going to bring it on the show and test it and see what we think of it. Now let's talk about the code of the day. And this one is for MC cable. When we get to 330, that is the article all about MC cable. If you're wanting to learn about MC and what you can do with it, what you can't do with it, bending radiuses, ampacity, if there's any changes to it, all of those type of things you're going to find in article 330. You could read the entire article in like 15 minutes. So go over there. I encourage you, go over there and check it out. When you get to the .10 section, that's going to be your uses permitted. When you get to the .12 section, that's going to be your uses not permitted. And if you're wanting to know how often to secure and support it, to put your straps on, you would head over to the .30 section. And what's cool, if you will just remember those 3 sections, they will help you in any of the cable or pipe articles. If you were to go to EMT, rigid metal conduit, Romex, NM cable, any of those, if you go to the .10, it's uses permitted. .12, uses not permitted. And the .30 is for your securing and supporting. Let's take a look at 330.10 and then paren 11. So we're in the 11th point. A damp or wet environment. MC cable is permitted only when it has a corrosion-resistant outer jacket and at least one of the following conditions apply. So it is permitted in damp or wet environments, which is not something you usually think about when you're dealing with MC cable, but it has to meet one of these points. The metal sheath itself prevents moisture from penetrating. A moisture-resistant layer is installed beneath a metal sheath. The insulated conductors within the cable are specifically rated and approved for use in wet conditions. Now, I ask on the question of the day today if it's listed for it. I should have said identified. So that was a little bit of a mix-up there. If you don't do our question of the day, you can head over to YouTube, search Electrical Code Coach, click on Post, and every day I ask a question of the day if you want to get involved. And this was the question that I asked today. So if it's identified for the environment, or if, excuse me, better said, if it meets one of these 3 points, didn't even say it has to be identified. And let me go ahead and explain some of these terms. So listed means it's listed by UL or equivalent company. Identified just means that the bag or the label says that it's okay for it. Some things may be not required to be listed, but just required to be identified. And those are some terminologies that you'll find in the NEC. So if it meets these 3 points, and of course it's going to be identified for it because it's going to say listed for wet environment, or identified for wet environments, and it's also likely going to be listed and tested for it as well. So ultimately, you're going to end up with those 3 things. MC cable is one of the most versatile cables. If you find the version that's allowed to be in wet locations, you also can run it in wet locations, but still all of your physical damage rules and codes apply. Now let's head over to the small business coaching corner. And what I want you to think about today in the locker room, because you either own your own small business, you're wanting to own your own small business, or one day you may be forced to own your own small business. And what I want you to think about today is counting the costs. First off, I want you to count the cost of going in business for yourself. Most people sit down at the kitchen table, come up with an idea, and they just go for it. And listen, I am an entrepreneur 101. I mean, at heart, I'm an entrepreneur, but you've got to count the costs. Count the costs of separating from where you work now, count the cost of actually starting the physical business, count the mental, physical, spiritual costs, time with your family costs. You've got to sit down and count the costs, and I feel like so many people don't. They just say, let's go, and I love that attitude, and ultimately, to be an entrepreneur, at some point, you just got to say, let's go. But I want you to sit down and count the costs before you ever go out into the business and really think about it. Then, a lot of businesses don't count the costs when they start to branch out into other things, when they want to do a specific idea, when they want to get an office, when they want to get a new vehicle, when they want to add on another employee. You've got to really sit down and count the costs. So you may look at the rent of $1,800 and be like, we can do $1,800, but did you factor in the internet? Usually commercial internet is in between $70 and $150 a month, and you've got to have internet. Then you've got to calculate in your light bill. You've got to calculate in your water bill, your deposits for all of those things if required. And when you start adding it up, then you get the overall cost. I don't want you to spend too much time dwelling on logistics and costs and get paralyzed by the analysis, right? You get paralysis of the analysis. But listen to me, you do have to sit down and count the costs and see if it's viable. Then remember, things like rent for a building, they repeat each month. So you got to make sure that you're willing to part with the funds that it takes to do it. What else does it change? When you start really breaking it down, let's imagine that you're thinking about getting a shop or a new shop. How much farther do you have to commute? How are you going to deal with parking? And let's say it's 5 more miles away from where you used to meet. Now that may be 5 miles closer to all your jobs. That's great. But let's imagine for this scenario that it's 5 miles off the beaten path. Now 5 miles is quite a way, but let's say it's 5 miles off and you've got 3 vans. Well, you can sit there and you can calculate how much that'll cost for those 3 vans to go that extra 5 miles, likely twice a day, 5 miles out and 5 miles back. Doesn't sound like much with 1 van, but when you take that over to 3 vans or 8 or 10, and then you multiply that by 5 days a week, 50 weeks out of the year, whatever that looks like, 52 weeks out of the year, however many weeks you're working, that cost you have to associate as well. Then you have to factor in the tires, the everything else. You can total up all those miles, divide it by your miles per gallon, divide it by miles per tire, all the time invested too. Don't forget about the time. If I've got 5 minutes there, 5 minutes back, that's 10 more minutes a day. Times 8 vans, that's 80 more minutes a day. If you've got 8 vans, multiply that out by over a whole year. And I just want you to start thinking about all the costs associated with your business decisions. And they're going to help you make better business decisions. And sometimes just learn to say, this doesn't make any sense. The more you start amounting the cost and the time and everything else, you're like, you know what? I was getting ready to get a shop 5 minutes out of town, but it was going to cost me $15,000 more a year on top of the rent, the lights, the electricity, the water, and the internet. So just keep an eye on that it starts to add up. And 1 month is a snapshot. Yeah, no big deal. But when you extrapolate that out, it can get very expensive very quickly. So I just want you to sit down, count the costs before you jump into anything. Now let's get to know the coach. Do I like residential, commercial, or industrial better? Oh gosh. This is a hard question because I love residential. I love the feeling of making it fix, right? Making it work. And that moment when you come in and something's been troubleshooting, you know, you've had 3 people there troubleshooting it and finally you walk in and get to fixing it and it, or right before the birthday party or right before whatever. I love that feeling of being like the hero at the house, right? And I love fixing things that really are like this could have killed somebody type stuff. I love finding stuff like that. There's no greater feeling. Now, I do love commercial, and I'm going to call commercial anywhere that there's retail, right? We're just going to say any retail, whether that's restaurant, you know, or that is retail clothing or any type of business, insurance company, government buildings. We're going to call all that commercial. Anywhere there's that type of transactions. I love that as well. For one, you get to kind of have the hero aspect again, but for two, it's usually there's one aspect of each commercial job that you've never seen before, depending on where you're at, right? If you go into the same Little Caesars, it's the same one. But like often you'll find yourself in situations with old components because it wasn't always originally a grocery store. It used to be a meat packing plant, and then it used to be a fiber plant where they made some type of fiber, and you can usually run into some pretty cool equipment at these places, and some of it's been repurposed and some of it they just built over old wiring systems that never got demoed but got disconnected. I like commercial for that reason. And then industrial, I like it because you don't have to deal with any customers usually you've got the foreman, superintendent on the job, whatever, but you're not dealing with customers day to day. You go out, you run your pipe, you run your wire, you do your thing, you put your stuff in your job box, put your stuff in your Connex box, and you go home. I love that aspect. You know, there's less somebody watching you. There's less somebody you've got to deal with. You don't got to worry about the dog, getting out or the cat getting out at the house. You don't got to worry about when the kids get home from school. We're getting ready to start cooking dinner. When's the kitchen going to be back on? So each one of these have their own merit. If I had to pick one, I would probably say, I don't know. I'd probably say industrial if I had to pick. I'm kind of torn between the three. I do love residential. I do. I feel like there's more money in residential for me. Everybody's different. I can make residential more lucrative than commercial or industrial, although I've made a lot of money in commercial. But I would say that I'd probably pick industrial if I had to pick one to do for the rest of my life, just because there's a lot of factors that you don't and drama that you don't have to deal with in industrial. I'm really curious what you think down in the comments below. I'd love to get to know what you like and what you do. Let's talk about the sponsor of today's video. You guys have seen them. It's StackMax. Highly recommend StackMax. In my opinion, it's the #1 solution in racking, stacking, and storing wire. Pick you up one for 14, 12, and 10. Rack that baby out. You could have solid in the front, stranded in the back, and literally have all of the sets of wire that you need. If you use the coupon code COACH, you can save 10% over at stackmax.com. That's STAKMAX.com. Now let's take a look at the funny pick of the day. If you'd like to have your picture featured, you can send that over to electricalcodecoach@gmail.com. Now this may be the cake taker for me for a replacement fuse. My friends, that is a Coke can wedged in between the terminal blocks. So when you take a look at that there, I got to ask some questions. What's the fuse rating? When's it going to cut out? I mean, I'm scared to death that thing is going to short out. I mean, what's it take, a gust of wind to get a Coke can to move, and that thing smack against the back of the panel, or phase to phase bucking? Look how close that is. So it looks like they've taken, this is a 3-phase disconnect, double tapped in multiple places, and looks like they've got a neutral splice that is just made up with tape. Now, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. It could be crimped underneath, right? And then they're not using the C phase. They're just using 2 of the phases. Very interesting here. Wonder what this is going to. Looks like we've got a piece of orange NM cable, perhaps, coming in the bottom. Very curious what this goes to, what it runs, why they're not using the 3rd leg. And let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Let's round this episode out with Mindset University, because it doesn't matter how good of a player you are. If you don't have the right mindset or you don't have the right attitude, you will sit on the bench of life. Now let's talk about why so few people get it. Why so few people go after it? Why so few people avail themselves of everything that's out there? Why? Why do so few do it? We'll put on these code classes and there's hundreds and hundreds of electricians and 30 of them show up. We'll put on the Super Bowl of code meetings, and that was something that we put on here in Tennessee. We put on the Super Bowl of code meetings with the greatest minds in the world, and only 400 people show up. When you've got the greatest collection of minds in the electrical industry. Why do so few people avail themselves of everything that's out there? Now let me ask you a question. Do you think most people don't want to succeed? Do you think most people don't want to level up and have a better life and do more and be able to give more? See, I think most people do. I think most people do want to be successful, and they do want to succeed and grow and be able to give back and be able to, give to the community and help people and buy someone's groceries when they're going through the grocery line and somebody's card's not working and you can tell they need some help. Like, I think everybody wants that, but why do so few people do it? And why do so few people avail themselves of all the things that are available in America and around the world to be able to do this? Well, there's a couple reasons here. One of them is they're overwhelmed. Maybe, and you can look at this 2 different ways. One is they're overwhelmed with their own circumstances. They can't get the extra energy. They're working with everything they've got. They've put in all they've got. They're giving everything, and they still just can't get ahead and get more. And I respect that. I've been in seasons like that. I get it. Sometimes they're overwhelmed with the amount of opportunity, right? You can go to college nearly for free. You can level up in jobs. There's workshops. There's free classes, code classes. There's YouTube, which has an unlimited amount of knowledge to where you can really dive into so many different sectors. There's classes you can take. Some people just get overwhelmed with the amount of stuff, so they let indecision be a decision, that they just don't make a decision and help themselves. Some people deal with the complex that they don't deserve it. They don't deserve to level up. They don't deserve to go to this class if it's free. They don't deserve to avail themselves of free college or those things. They just feel like they don't deserve it. And we've all felt like that at a time, right? But we can't live there. We can't stay there. Nobody deserves anything. If we were being honest, every one of us deserve jail at some point in our life, likely have done something that would could cost us our life, whether it's driving recklessly or drinking recklessly or something like that. All of us deserve, and if we got a just retribution for every foul thing that we said in traffic or hateful thing that we said or hateful thought that we had, we would all be dead in jail or in hell. We can all agree on that, right? So none of us deserve any of this life. None of us deserve these paved roads. We don't deserve, and you can say, well, my taxes pay for part of that. Well, they do, but do you think your little bit of taxes pay for every paved road in your county? I don't think so, friend. And if you look at the inflated cost of doing roads, it probably maybe pays for the little road that you're on. Maybe your whole life of paying taxes. Not that I don't think we pay too much, but it was just to make a point. Do we deserve the roads that we drive on, the government we had, a government that will go to the end of the earth if your child gets, like, we don't deserve all this stuff. So don't live in that mindset that you don't deserve something. We all don't deserve it, and that's okay. And that's part of the beauty of the American dream, is that we've created such a country that none of us could ever physically deserve or purchase all of the free things, the parks, the events, the state parks that we have, and all of the infrastructure that we have. None of us individually could pay for it, but the collective and the will of the people have created this amazing thing. It's really exciting. And some people, the reason they don't avail themselves and level up is they're just complacent. They're content with where they want, almost in a smug way or in a debilitating way that they don't ever want to grow. And you can't fix that. You can't fix complacency other than with drive, grit, determination, with hard work, with strength, and with deciding that you want to do more. Listen, you'll find, and if you're a grinder, you're one of those people who do avail yourself of the class. I think the best advice I ever got was don't miss the play. Don't miss the ball game. Don't miss the show. Don't miss the event. Don't miss the museum tour for free. I'm in Savannah today. Don't deserve to be here. Getting ready to go walk through the museum. It's likely free. Do I deserve it? No, I don't. Could my little bit of taxes cover this giant museum? No, it couldn't. What about all the gardens and parks here? I couldn't pay for that. So listen to me. But I have decided that I am going to work to avail myself of everything, and don't miss the play. Talking about if your child has a play, or your nephew or daughter or friend or someone that you know is getting ready to act in a play, don't miss it. Don't miss the ball game. Don't miss the recital. Don't miss the dance. Don't miss the... If I see a line and people are forming, I'm like, well, what are they doing over there? Don't miss the stuff. Don't miss the fabric that is your life, because working for more. You think that if you get more money, then you'll go see the play or you'll go do the thing, but you never do. You're always working and you're always wanting more. And then we fall into complacency where we're happy with what we got, and we get in these stagnant times where we don't grow. And listen to me, you're either going forward or you're going backward. So what I want you to focus on today, and what I want you to think about, is that, and let me say this first before we cap up. If you are a grinder and you do avail yourself of these things, I want you to get excited, because it seems like the more and more time goes on, the less and less people avail themselves of it. We are in a marketplace that if you show up to work on time with a halfway decent attitude, you're a rock star. If you were to go back to the 70s, 80s, and 90s, everybody showed up for work on time. Everybody was hungry. Everybody was going to business classes and Zig Ziglar and wanting to succeed and wanting to excel. And there were lots of stars shining in the workplace, and it was competitive. Now, if you just show up for work on time most days with a decent attitude, you're a rock star at your job. So what it allows you is to shine a lot easier and a lot sooner than you could before. And what you'll find is those who really avail themselves, who really try, shine like stars. And those are the people that will rise up and get the best of what the world's got to offer, the best jobs, the best placement. And everybody looks at them like they have some kind of privilege, or that they got somewhere they didn't deserve, or their daddy or mommy gave it to them. For my mom and dad didn't give me anything but wreckage and ashes. So I just availed myself of the stuff, and I worked and I went and I did the paces and I did the stuff, and I go to the play and I get involved and I take the classes and I go to the meetings. And yes, it's costing me my time, but what is the investment back in myself? So not everybody who got where they are just was given it, right? And if you want what they got, you've got to rouse yourself up to go out and get and do the things that they did. And most of it doesn't cost any money. Get involved in an organization that's free. Get involved in volunteering. Get involved in these things, and you'll find that the more that you start to give, the more you get plugged in, the more you give to society, the more you're going to get back from it, and you'll be able to rise yourself up out of your circumstances, from your past. You're going to be able to break chains. You're going to be able to move forward, and you won't ever have to look at anybody again and say, oh, well, I wish what they had. You can go have what they have just by going and getting involved. So I encourage you today, and I want you to think about, what are you doing with your life? Where are you going? It's not about getting more stuff. It's about you don't want to just get through the day. You want to get from the day. I don't want to just get through another day today. I want to soak up as much as I can of it, of the experiences and the friendships and the crazy traffic and all the different things. And it's just a mindset shift of you wanting and you striving, or you just being complacent or giving up, to you wanting to be involved, offering yourself and going out and getting involved in the things that the moves that you know you need to make in order to better your life, better your family, and to break those chains. I want to leave us with a quote today. I want to start leaving us with a quote every single day. In a world brimming with open doors, it's often the weight of our own comfort zones that keep us, in a world brimming with open doors, it's often the weight of our own comfort zones that keep our hands off the handle. Few people reach out not because the path to success is hidden, but because it's easier to stay where they are rather than to step in the unknown and become everything that they can be. I am the Electrical Code Coach, and my bargain is that these videos will add value to you, and you will in turn add value to others. If you need anything from me, you can always email me at electricalcodecoach@gmail.com. This is the Alpha Phase Podcast, but there is one who is the Alpha of Alphas, and he's the one that gives me the strength to not get overwhelmed, to not look at my past and feel like I don't deserve it when I know I don't, and also not to be complacent. And he can do the same for you, and his name's Jesus. If you need anything from me, email me anytime at electricalcodecoach@gmail.com. Let's get to it.